Hello everyone. Thank you for reaching out and following along with this video series related to documents released by the FBI pursuant to Executive Order 14040, signed by President Biden on September 3rd of 2021, 20 years after the horrific attacks of September 11th, 2001. The executive order specifically tasked executive agencies such as the FBI to go through a declassification review of any documents, material, investigations, etc., that related to the attacks of September 11th, 2001, and to provide the public view into that document, or into those documents, those materials. So far, we have read important documents and information related to this. We have read in April 2016 electronic communication, which highlights an investigation called Operation Encore. What is Operation Encore? Operation Encore, as we know from the April 2016 electronic communication, was an investigation initiated by the FBI on October 26th of 2007. About 3 years after the 9/11 Commission concluded that it had found no evidence that the Saudi government as an institution or senior Saudi Arabian officials individually funded Al-Qaeda. Now we do know that Operation Encore prosecutors and agents were seeking to bring criminal charges to individuals for their material support to two hijackers of American Airlines Flight 77, which crashed into the west end of the Pentagon on September 11th, named Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mihdar. Now they provided material support to them, as well as planned to provide their support prior to their arrival in Los Angeles in January of 2000. Their arrival from Malaysia, by the way. Now this is very important information, and I suggest that you read along as well as access the documents on the FBI vault yourself. Just a little bit behind the individual that we will be reading about today. This individual is named Mohdar Mohammed Abdullah. I will be providing this information, this little background snippet, from a website called Florida Bulldog. They provide, I would say, up-to-date analysis of documents released, events, anything that has to do with lawsuits related to September 11th, 2001. I haven't really seen too many other websites that have dedicated themselves to continuing to provide news and information about the attacks of September 11th, given that it is about 2 decades since it has happened. So it's very heartwarming to see that there are still individuals out there who are seeking to provide justice to the families who were affected on September 11th, 2001. And I hope I can also participate in that by doing my part here. So this is a little snippet about the individual we'll be reading about today. The FBI is seeking to indict Mohdar Abdullah, Mohdar, in the Southern District of New York for providing material support to 9/11 hijackers Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mihdar. Mohdar is the subject of San Diego's full field investigation, say newly revealed parts of an FBI memorandum about updates and initiatives. Abdullah was well known to the FBI. Among other things, he and other subjects of interest in the case worked with Hazmi in the fall of 2000 at a Texaco gas station in Mesa, California, owned by Osama Mustafa. Mustafa's involvement is outlined in the 2012 report. Mustafa has denied having any terrorist connections, but was convicted in April 2013 in a $17.7 million conspiracy to profit from phony federal income tax refunds. He fled the country before sentencing, but was captured last year in Jordan. The FBI released a more complete, though still thickly censored version of the 2012 report last week amid a document dump sparked by President Biden's September 3rd executive order requiring a declassification review of 9/11 documents at the behest of members of Congress and pressure from lawyers for the 9/11 families who are suing Saudi Arabia in federal court in New York City. Let's get into the reading. Mohdar Mohammed Abdullah. We don't know his date of birth, but it did happen in 1979. So what, he would be 44 years old as of today. Mobile telephone number. He was interviewed first at the restaurant Pang Long in Upland, Upplångsgatan 51, Stockholm, Sweden, then at the Nut restaurant and bar, Upplångsgatan 17, Stockholm. An officer of the Swedish Security Service, Säkerhetspolisen, wow, SAPO, I'm not even going to try to speak that, was also present for the interview. After being advised of the identity of the interviewers and the nature of the interview, Abdullah provided the following information. Abdullah stated that he is very tired of answering the same questions posed by security services, notably the FBI, regarding the events surrounding the attacks on September 11, 2001. He wanted to speak to the interviewing agent again because he felt this time was different, since during their interview with him the previous day, on December 19th of 2013, agents did not ask him the question he's usually asked. Abdullah wanted to put the events of the past behind him. Abdullah was angry and upset when he was first showed about the surveillance video taken at Los Angeles International Airport on June 10th of 2000, hereafter the LAX video. He stated that this was because he had been told that the unknown individual in the video, LAX video, was there with him, Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mihdhar, although he did not recognize the UN SUV. Additionally, he saw what he believed to be al-Mihdhar speaking to the UN SUV over the UN SUV's shoulder in the LAX video, which exacerbated Abdullah's feelings of being used and lied to by al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi. Abdullah reiterated that he did not know or recognize the UN SUV, but postulated that al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi maybe did, since they had lied to him about so many other things. It was Abdullah's opinion that the UN SUV appeared older than him, al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi in the LAX video. When asked how old he thought the UN SUV appeared to be in the video, Abdullah stated that he wasn't sure, but maybe he might have been in his early 30s. Abdullah was told that the object in the UN SUV's hand in the LAX video was a camera. When he first saw the LAX video, and that they had shown him blown up pictures of it emphasizing what they had saw or said was light at the top and a dark area which was a lens aperture, Abdullah does not remember what his impression of the object was prior to them stating it was a camera. Abdullah believes that the third person he had referred to in his email to the San Diego Union-Tribune newspaper reporter was, and of course it's blanked out, though that was a mistake caused by not having seen the video yet. He did not think the person was, upon viewing it the previous day, on December 19th, 2013. Additionally, he reiterated that he was fairly sure that he had traveled to LAX on June 10th of 2000 with only al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi, and absolutely certain that he had traveled back to San Diego that day by car with only al-Hazmi. Abdullah stated that they had listened to music of Quranic verses on their trip. When asked about his statement that he had been shown a picture of himself, al-Mihdhar, al-Hazmi, and the UN SUV standing in front of a departure status board in LAX, Abdullah stated that his memory of that picture had them standing in the same position that he had seen them in the LAX video he had seen the previous day on December 19th, 2013. Abdullah believed that he misremembered the location of the photo and that it was likely from the security line as depicted in the LAX video. Abdullah had not told anyone in Sweden about his involvement with al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi or his arrest and detainment by the United States government. And he did not think anyone he currently associates with knew about it. He was careful to keep only a small group of friends and avoided sticking out in any way. Abdullah feared the release of the video will cause many people not to want to associate with him and make his life very difficult and possibly dangerous. Abdullah primarily wanted his immigration issues in Sweden resolved so that he can visit his sick father, who resides in Italy. Abdullah's brother also resides in Italy with their father. Abdullah was very concerned that he has not ever seen his son. When asked when his son was born, he stated that the FBI knows already, and that he is born in the year 2002. Abdullah did not know the child's full birth date. He stated that his ex-wife, understood by the interviewing agent to be a certain individual, had 3 children, the middle one being his, and that the FBI had tricked this individual into lying about not being married to him and not having his child. Abdullah believed that they knew that the child to be his, but decided that they had faked his son's death with a fraudulent death certificate in order to prevent Abdullah from trying to see the child. Abdullah identified his primary motivation in life as trying to meet his son. Abdullah had participated in an interview on Al Jazeera television in Yemen in 2005 or 2006, in which he and Anwar al-Awlaki were interviewed by reporter Yusri Fuda in Arabic. The night before the interview, Abdullah met Fuda and al-Awlaki for dinner, during which al-Awlaki espoused Takfiri principles specifically justifying violence against Muslims. Abdullah stated he disagreed and argued with al-Awlaki, and that interaction carried on into the televised interview the next day. Abdullah had asked Fuda that Al Jazeera obscure his face during the interview. Abdullah met al-Awlaki one other time in Yemen, but stated that he did not remember what the context of the meeting was. Abdullah did not remember al-Awlaki ever saying anything inflammatory or extreme while he was an imam of the mosque in San Diego, though that had changed once al-Awlaki moved to Yemen. Abdullah remembered a group in San Diego who split off from that mosque, and that there was one individual who was a convert to Islam with very radical views among them. Abdullah did not remember that individual's name. At this time in the interview, the restaurant Thang Long closed, and Abdullah and the interviewing agents traveled down the street to Nut Restaurant and Bar to continue. During the walk, Abdullah received phone calls from his brother in Italy and his housemate. Abdullah stated that he did not drink for religious reasons, but would not be offended if anyone else did. Abdullah was very angry about the method in which al-Awlaki had been killed. Abdullah believed that since al-Awlaki was a U.S. citizen, he should have been given a trial. Abdullah had even been more upset over the way al-Awlaki's son had been killed, since unlike al-Awlaki, he was a boy and had not done harm to the United States. Abdullah's father and al-Awlaki's father had been friends when he was growing up in Sana'a, Yemen. Abdullah did not remember al-Awlaki well from this time, but Abdullah was friends with al-Awlaki's brother, Omar. Abdullah had not spoken to Omar in years, and said he wondered how Omar was doing. Abdullah stated that he sides very strongly with the plight of the Palestinians, and does not agree with the Israeli occupation of Palestine. Abdullah has always dreamed of visiting Jerusalem. Abdullah stated that he has a theory regarding the UNSUB, specifically that the UNSUB was an Israeli agent. Abdullah stated that he had no way to know that this was true, but that he thought the FBI should check the passports of any Israelis who were in the Los Angeles area at the time of the LAX video. Now that is very interesting information, given what we know about the Gerald Shea Memorandum. We know that there were Israeli agents specifically very close to locations of the 9/11 hijacker hubs, and that they had information and definitely were following these individuals within the United States while they were doing their operations. So we definitely know, and I'm not saying that that is the case, but that is a very interesting theory given the Gerald Shea Memorandum and the information we know there. Abdullah stated that in retrospect, he did not know whether al-Mohdar and al-Hazmi did or said anything that would indicate the future plans they had regarding the events on September 11th, 2001. Abdullah remembered he was watching the news, and al-Hazmi refused to sit and watch with him, stating that the way the female reporter dressed was haram. Abdullah told him that al-Hazmi should recognize the great opportunities they had by living in the United States, and that they must make some allowances and be forgiving of some customs in return for those opportunities. Al-Hazmi stated that Abdullah does not understand. Abdullah became angry and asked al-Hazmi if he was so concerned about Quranic law, why he did not grow his beard. Al-Hazmi smiled and stated that there were things Abdullah would only understand later. Abdullah stated that he did not know what al-Hazmi meant at the time. Abdullah was initially introduced to al-Mohdar and al-Hazmi by Omar al-Bayoumi, there's a Bayoumi connection, and stated that everyone in the Islamic community at the time believed that al-Bayoumi was working for the Saudi Arabian government. Abdullah questioned why al-Bayoumi had asked him to look out for the al-Mohdar and al-Hazmi, and stated that since he had not heard anything about al-Bayoumi in the media since the attacks on September 11, 2001, the U.S. government had not done an adequate job of investigating him. Abdullah also stated that the FBI should talk to Hashim al-Attas, but would not elaborate on why, stating that it just should be done. That's interesting. I'm going to take a look at that name. Hashim al-Attas. Abdullah had previously been detained in Sana'a, Yemen, following his deportation from the United States. He remembered being detained in a group holding cells along with two individuals who had been transferred there from U.S. detention in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Abdullah did not remember their names. He additionally remembered there was another prisoner in the Yemeni jail who had been held in U.S. detention in Guantanamo Bay, but that individual was held in solitary confinement in the basement of the jail. Abdullah had heard about 3 other former Guantanamo Bay detainees who were in Yemen, but they were held in a separate jail. Abdullah stated that he was an individual of above average intelligence and that he had taken IQ tests to prove this. He understood why he had been continuously approached since the attacks on September 11, 2001, but reiterated that he was very tired of being chased and confronted with the same questions. Abdullah had been thinking of giving an individual call, understood by the interviewing agent to be, we don't know. Abdullah had stated that an individual had ruined his life, but they had both good and bad times together. I'm speculating that that could potentially be his wife. And that is the end of the interview that the FBI had in Sweden with Mohdar Mohammed Abdullah. Thank you for following along with this video. I look to continue my releases, probably 2 more this week, on these documents. There is plenty of material to cover. As you can see, we're only on page 12 of 478, and this is just one part of the release. So stick with it. I appreciate that you listen to this information. It helps us become more informed citizens, helps us understand the attacks of September 11th, 2001, and I appreciate you taking the time to do that, because it is still a very pressing and important event that has occurred in our history. And thank you for your time. So I hope everybody has a good night, and thank you for listening to my video, and watch out for the next one. So have a good night. Thank you.